From the classroom to the Broadway stage, this story has been told many times, but now we're hearing it from the Midwest. On this episode of Finding Festivals, we're blasting back in time to the Revolutionary War to learn how a ragtag army of volunteers, led by George Rogers Clark, shoot their shot.
Which was not a very gentlemanly thing to do.
Discuss how one document abolished slavery.
And they have no idea.
And explore the history of the United States military during the Spirit of Vincennes Rendezvous. Hi, I'm Haylie. I'm a former festival queen turned award-winning executive producer, and I shared my love for community traditions with over 54 million households on PBS, and now I'm inviting you to join me in Finding Festivals.
France, Great Britain, and the United States all fought for this charming town, but one 1779 battle determined its fate. And we're going to learn how at the Spirit of Vincennes Rendezvous.
Vincennes, located on the southwestern part of the state, is Indiana's first city. Established by the French in the early 1730s, this town later became the site of the pivotal capture of Fort Sackville by George Rogers Clark and his militia. Today, Vincennes continues to lean into its history and invites guests to the annual Spirit of Vincennes Rendezvous. Before volunteering for the Continental Army, I met with Joe and Charles to better understand Vincennes and life during the colonial period.
So our story actually starts with the French occupation of this area, which is the early 1700s. The dual settlements that were here, Piankashaw were on one side, the French were on the other side, and they established this area in the early 1700s. Then we would bring the story back up into the early 1800s, which is the predominant theme for our site here is the early 1800s, which is the early Republic time period. So then we focus on how the French village and the Piankashaw village then came together as an American village, and how the United States was then able to develop this most western territory at the time into something that was viable for people to be able to utilize, and then how it ended up becoming a state in 1816.
Wow, there's just so much in this area, and it really comes back to it dating back as far as it has.
Now, one thing that's interesting here in Vincennes is that, as far as I know, I'm going to stick my neck out there, I think we're the only town in Indiana to have some kind of a direct connection to the American Revolution.
Really? What do you enjoy most about your position here?
When you get a group of people, which more often than not, they're actually interested in history or that don't know something. They're surprised by things. I think that's interesting. I've had several groups, for example, come in when we give the tour, even from here in Indiana, and they have no idea when we talk about the Northwest Ordinance, outlawed slavery in the Northwest Territory. This is before the Constitution.
What exactly is the Northwest Ordinance? To put it simply, an ordinance for the government of the territory of the United States northwest of the River Ohio helped establish the part of the region we identify as the Midwest today. The Northwest Ordinance was adopted by the Confederation Congress on July 13, 1787, exactly 2 months and 4 days before the United States Constitution was signed. Article 6 states, "There shall be neither slavery nor involuntary servitude in the said territory," making the Midwest the first territory to ban slavery in the United States. However, due to the other parts of the newly found republic allowing slavery, Article 6 also says that any person escaping from the original states where slavery and involuntary servitude is permitted may be returned to the individual claiming their labor or service. This is a testament to the progressiveness of the New World being at odds with the ways of the Old World.
And they have no idea. So I said, since that time, it was never legal. And people are surprised by things like that. So
all because we were establishing land,
yeah.
Right? I know that kind of every building has its own personality. Is there a particular exhibit that you kind of favor or get most excited with when you're educating people on it?
Each building we do on a regular basis has their own thing. Like I said, with school, it's interesting because that's the academy, the first public school, and I'm a former teacher, so that's fun to talk about.
It was the first free public schoolhouse in Indiana Territory. So it was open to all the children, whoever could afford to send their children there. And by that, I mean they could afford to release their children from their duties at home or with the business.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. So, the children back then would be part of managing the household. So to afford an education really came down to, can we afford to lose the help?
Absolutely.
This particular building here is First Capitol. Especially with older groups and adults, I have fun reminding them that it's always been this way, politics. So we can talk about political drama of the 1800s, like, see, don't feel so bad.
So downstairs where we are at the moment, that's the House of Representatives, and upstairs would be the council chamber, and the council chamber would be where William Henry Harrison would have been as governor also.
Wow, so it started as a tailor shop and then it transitioned into a place where, sort of say the room where it happens.
Yes, absolutely. Where all the laws were made and things were decided.
The print shop is just because it's the real printing press in there, and it's interesting, and we get to show kids especially how it works.
And that was established by William Henry Harrison. He called over a person called Elihu Stout from Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, and said, I'd like someone to be able to print the news from elsewhere and also the state laws so that people would know what's happening. Because at this time period, there was a real push to clear up a lot of the land ownership in the area under the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. So they were trying to establish what land belonged to whom, and then that way they could then open it up for other people who wanted to migrate in. So it's really important to bring people into Vincennes to claim their land, or for them to know the procedure in which to claim their land. So all of these types of things needed to be printed. And so he asked Elihu Stout to establish a print shop for him.
Isn't it fascinating that, I think the youth is so interested in media, and you would think it's because it's the flashiness of the videos, but like you said, they're even fascinated by the printing press.
Oh, yeah.
The interest in media is just, it doesn't matter what it is, the youth is just, to communicate to the masses is something that I think all of us are interested in.
Yeah, and the printing press is very important. Some will say the printing press is the tool of democracy.
Joe shared some nuggets about William Henry Harrison, and now I want to learn more. A short walk away is the Grouseland Mansion, where the 9th President of the United States lived during his service as the first territorial governor of the Indiana Territory. Docent of Grouseland Mansion, Victoria, helps fill in more of William Henry Harrison's story.
So this is the home of William Henry Harrison, who most people remember as our 9th president, and that he died within 30 days, so he's our shortest term president. But it's really what he did in this home almost 40 years before he became president as governor of the Indiana Territory.
So how did he get into politics?
So his father was 3-term governor of Virginia, roommates with George Washington during the Continental Congress, and a signer of the Declaration of Independence. So he really came from a well-connected, wealthy family, and then he had military history as well. And then he was appointed as secretary of the old Northwest Territory, which included out here, but also modern-day Ohio. So he got to move his family to Philadelphia at that time.
Wow, like dude was well connected.
Absolutely.
Okay,
yes,
so
yeah.
it really wasn't just what you know, it's who you know.
Absolutely.
And then, for 30 days he ruled the country.
Yes.
But hey, that's 30 more days than I have in my book.
Exactly, yes.
I appreciate all the interconnectivity of that. He has lineage that helped sign the Declaration of Independence and eventually was able to come into that independence and become a ruling figure in that particular independence. That's so
absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah. And as governor, it was the first and last time a governor ever held this much power when he was here in the Indiana Territory. And he was only 27, which I think is incredible. So everyone remembers him as the old 68-year-old president, but he was doing a lot more for a long time.
And considering when he was president, he would have been, one of the last that were, born in the English reign.
Yes, he's our last president born under British rule. So there's a lot of fun facts about William.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that to the next pub trivia, and hopefully
Absolutely,
I win.
Yes.
So how did you get involved with the museum and kind of start doing this?
Well, I went to school for art, and that was, something I focused on. And then my family is actually very involved in the mansion. My mom is director here, Lisa, and she has been for over a decade. And so I'm going into my 11th year helping. And then in my childhood, during the candlelight tours, I would dress and be in different rooms. And so it's just, I love this place, and I want to make sure it continues to go on.
The smell of open fire and the sound of it too. Crowds are eagerly waiting for the first battle to commence. But I was curious about how the festival started.
So we started during the National Bicentennial. So in 1976, a local Vincennes University president decided he wanted to have something historic happening in our community. He got about 4 or 5 people together, and they put together a little event that was on the Vincennes University campus. We've gotten more and more authentic, but otherwise we're pretty much almost 50 years old.
Wow, yeah, so you said the bicentennial, and we have the America's 250th celebration. Correct. So you kind of have been in line in the last 50 years with that.
Absolutely, and then have our own 250th anniversary in 2029.
Wow, so you kind of get to kick it off a little bit and then have this big party, and it gives a reason to keep coming back and seeing what else you guys are doing.
And one of the things we do with like the Northwest Territorial Alliance, every so many years they have what's called a grand encampment, and they bring not only troops from like this 5 or 6 state area that we have here in the Midwest, but they'll bring Eastern groups that'll come in. So it's possible that by 2029 we may have a number of Eastern units that would come here, and it'd be even a bigger battle. They're in period clothing and in character that entire time they're here. So once they set up that encampment, which I know you're visiting, they tell their story and they stay in character that whole time.
Wow.
And now a word from our Underwriters.
You are here, soaking up the sunshine together. Here, relaxing and reconnecting with good friends. Here, escaping the everyday. At Shores and Islands, Ohio, life's sweetest moments are the simple ones. And you are here, living them. You are here.
The American Rescue Plan Act, and viewers like you. Thank you. Now back to the episode. Mark isn't exaggerating. The participants take pride in their roles and can tell you to the very time frame from which their clothing is representing during the Revolutionary War.
I apologize for my dress, but being a frontier regiment, and we've been without resupply for a couple of years. And we take a snapshot of what we want to portray. We're the period just before the next resupply comes in, so we've been without uniform resupply for 3 years.
But what is your favorite thing here at the festival? What do you look forward to every year that you have to do?
Well, I think there are certain people that you meet, and I think I mentioned them to you prior to your coming. It's people like that you meet and develop friendships over time.
Again, it really comes down to the people, and that's what makes this festival the Spirit of Vincennes Rendezvous.
Right.
Everyone gathers at the field for the first battle of the day. Mark shared the Spirit of Vincennes Rendezvous celebrates the city's history from its founding in 1732 through 1811, making this reenactment unique in how many reenactors can participate. The battle is an opportunity to educate the festival attendees in different tactics and strategies used in the historical time frame the festival celebrates. Linnea guides attendees through these strategies during her live narrations of each battle. Kind of like a sports announcer, but for historical battle strategies.
Well, one of the things that we do try and do is show the tactics and kind of dispel some of the myths. People have learned that the American Army, or the Rebel Army, depending on your point of view, all used rifles and hid behind rocks and trees and were great shots and shot up the dumb British who lined up in a straight line and wore red coats, and it took them 8 years to figure out what they were doing wrong. And a lot of that is incorrect. The primary weapon that was used actually by both sides during the war was a musket, which is the smoothbore weapon that's less accurate. But it was the military weapon of the period for several reasons. It was cheaper. It was faster to load because they used an undersized ball that could be loaded and fired quickly. And then it also was made to have a bayonet at the end for close quarters combat, where you can fire your rifle maybe more accurately once a minute. With a musket, you can fire 4 times in that minute, so you've got more chances of hitting somebody. Plus, the idea is, because you're using the musket that's not terribly accurate, you're not aiming at a person on the other side. You're just aiming at the opposing line. And you're going to take more casualties if you line up directly facing them, because you want to be facing the broadest part of your target. And so both armies, primarily in a big pitched battle, fought in that linear style of tactic where they were directly facing each other in a straight line across the battlefield, instead of the guerrilla tactics that we sometimes think that the Continental Army used. And it did sometimes, but that was not their primary method of fighting or tactic.
Rumor has it the Continental Army is looking for new recruits, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
And so to load this weapon, you find your cartridge box, pull out a cartridge. One reason that you could not serve in the Army is if you didn't have 2 teeth. You have to have at least 2 teeth to be in the Army, because you got the gun in hand and cartridge in hand. How are you going to open it? You have to have 2 teeth to get it open.
I got teeth. I'm in the Army now.
And your prime.
And we're just going to load a little, right?
Yep, you don't need a lot in there.
Okay.
Do a little more.
A little more?
And so you're just pouring powder into the pan, and then you shut it, and then you load the paper, and in the bottom of the paper would be the bullet. Yeah, pour it down.
Pour it down.
Pull the ramrod out and drive it down, and pull the ramrod.
Pull the ramrod. I swear, I watched you the first time. I just didn't take very good notes.
And turn it over. You want the other end going down.
Oh, other down. Okay. And then you just stick it down?
Yep.
Until it's all the way to the bottom?
Yep.
Okay.
And remember, they're doing this 3 to 5 times a minute.
I would be dead by now.
And that's why it's so easy to load, is because the ball is smaller than the barrel and it goes in very quick and very easy. The commands would, from here for the Army, you'd come to shoulder arms once you were loaded. There you go. Shoulder arm. This is how you spent most of your days, marching and walking and carrying and carrying that thing around. Command is make ready.
Now, out in front of me.
And present. Yeah, this way.
There we go. Okay.
And fire.
I think I'll stick to documenting the battle instead of loading the barrel. Across the encampment is the George Rogers Clark Memorial, which marks the area where Fort Sackville once was and also is one of the battles that inspired the festival.
Yeah, Fort Sackville was on that location, very near the location, which you wouldn't do today. For archaeological reasons, you wouldn't put a large memorial right on the battlefield or on the fort itself. It is a very special spot for the American Revolution, for America's movement westward. There are some historians that would argue that our movement into Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, that all starts right here with America taking this from the English.
Wow, so it was kind of one of those battles that helped determine one of our successes.
It did in the West. In this part of the frontier, this was a very big success for the American cause.
I will say the monument is very grandiose, but from what you were telling me is that the fort was kind of small.
It was very rickety. The English commander who came down in December before the battle, Henry Hamilton, described it as one of the most desolate places he had ever seen. So he was trying to improve the fort when Clark comes in late February to attack this winter surprise that happens.
But how is this even possible?
Eventually there was a surrendering because of a miscalculation almost.
I think that's correct. I think that Hamilton, first of all, assumed that George Rogers Clark would not send his small army from the Mississippi River to Vincennes in midwinter, right? Secondly, he assumed that Clark had more firepower than he really did. And Clark had sent a boat called the Willing. His cannon were on the boat with John Rogers. It didn't arrive till after the battle, but that would have really helped George Rogers Clark. So that's correct. I think you've hit it on the dot. Miscalculation, is that good? Is that a good term?
I think so.
Either way you look at it, it's a combination between strategy and underestimation that ultimately won the fort in the rebels, or in the Americans' favor.
It is kind of a community identifier, but how did it come to be?
There was a big letter writing campaign in the 20s. It was coming up on the 150th of the Battle of Fort Sackville that happened here in Vincennes, and they wanted to acknowledge it in some way. And in the 20s and 30s, this is how you built memorials to people. So it is very old style, Beaux Art style, as we like to say. It has a lot of Roman and Greek influence in it. And you go inside the rotunda, you've got 27-foot tall murals, which will walk you through Clark's adventures, as well as acknowledging his brother William Clark in the very last mural.
I was noticing that, and I remember you mentioning that it's not really American style. It did kind of adopt from other ideas, and it was really because at that time we were still kind of identifying who America is.
Sure.
And I think that's really interesting, especially because I think we're still always kind of developing what our culture is, because we don't have thousands of years of history, right? We kind of collect it from all of the people who make this home.
Back at the festival, wait a minute, how did we get here?
We will make sure that you're one of the 8 stout, hardy women. I think you'll have a good chance.
I could throw a frying pan.
I bet you could.
And that's how I ended up in this frying pan throwing competition. Well, here we go. Ooh, that didn't work out very well. Now that we know where the military started, let's see how far it has come. The Indiana Military Museum is just a short walk from the festival and continues the story of the U.S. military into the 20th century.
A few 100,000-man army. We still had cavalry, horse-driven artillery. And then overnight, after Pearl Harbor, we went into mechanization and industrialization that changed the whole thing. The whole story of that is fascinating, and how that happened in just a short period of time, and then ultimately we win the war because of it.
Yeah, just from one war to another, from World War I to World War II.
Yeah. I mean, we literally went from a World War I army to a modern army in just a matter of months.
And to your point, like you said, it was like the World War I, we were doing this, and just by World War II, not very many years afterward.
And then
I guess it's hard to believe that it was kind of back to back like that we changed our strategy that quickly because of technology.
Absolutely. And then of course the home front the same way. You know, you had so many things change on the home front that people had to get used to. Get used to being without certain products, and getting used to giving up the things that you really like sugar and bacon every day and so forth.
Jim and his team make sure to include details beyond the battlefield and what everyday life was like. This was the most interesting story to me.
Well, we're standing by the World War II barracks, which is used by soldiers who were at George Field just across the river. It was an air base, training base for pilots. And what we have exhibited here after a 4-year restoration project is what was called the link trainer. And push this button and it will simulate how the link trainer operated. We had a fellow here at the desk who would control and also create problems for the pilot to respond to. And the link trainer ended up being used by all of the Allies as a training source for their prospective pilots.
It's very impressive, and when you think about where video games are now, it's like, oh, so this is where virtual reality started.
In a way, you're exactly right, because the fellow that invented this, believe it or not, went to carnivals to try to let people have rides in this, because he couldn't get the government interested in purchasing this for years, and he had to finance his whole project by taking it to carnivals and giving rides. Then the war came along, and they go, oh, by the way, maybe we can start using that.
It started with a carnival ride. Who knew?
This space is huge, and they are still building exhibits.
But I enjoy it very much, and have done it ever since the inception of the museum, and so we've got a lot of ideas still up here that we have to create, and as you can see, it's a work in progress.
It shows that you take good care of not only preserving the history, but also telling the story and helping people get immersed into the history.
Well, yes, the idea is that we want to get people to a point when they come through here, they understand what the men and women of our armed services have done throughout our nation's history to help preserve and protect our freedoms. And I think that what we do here and the way that we present these artifacts helps do that they understand what our whole history has been about as far as military history.
There is so much history in Indiana's first city, but what the Spirit of Vincennes Rendezvous reminds us is that our past doesn't define who we are, but rather it's how we choose to show up for our neighbors that builds stronger communities, even if it involves camping out at a national park. I look forward to the next festival we find. You can visit findingfestivals.com to learn more about the series, get updates through the digital newsletter, and connect with me on social media where you can access more festive and travel content.
And we're gonna learn how. Sorry, my hair is started going to my mouth.
Usually I wear a powdered wig and I would be flipping.
You know, I think I might do better with the drums, you know? And we're gonna learn how I will hiss at the sun. There's choreography to my hand talking.
I completely forgot what we said.
Looks a little holy. I'm probably giving you a heart attack right now, aren't I?
Oh, you're fine.